Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Sarah. How are you doing? Hope everyone's all right. Yeah, like Sarah said, this is very much an interactive session. I'm not precious about people putting their hands up. Just jump in and say whatever you need to say. Ask whatever questions you need to ask. So yeah, just to kind of keep to time, I'm going to get started now as Sarah's adding people into the lobby. But thank you very much, Sarah, for the opportunity to speak. First of all, really appreciate it. Yeah, it looks like some of you probably do know me, and some maybe not. But my name is John Russell. I'm a Power Platform consultant at ANS. I've been there for about 6 months or so, and kind of let me know what they thought was the best way forward. And the majority of them said really you need to do a kind of hybrid degree, one that's kind of business and IT focused. And that was really the building blocks and the start of where I've got to. 1996. I remember the original A team. I remember having a conversation about someone talking about the A team. They didn't even know who it was. I am that old. I then had a year out of the BBC as part of that university degree. And that's kind of where I first came across some really kind of challenging customers. In the latter stages of my time at BBC stroke Siemens, because they bought out the technology arm of it, I was working on a procurement portal which interfaced into a remedy system and also allowed all of the IT coordinators in the BBC to theoretically purchase IT equipment. Basically, I think they basically saw me coming, and they said that it was going to be a really good job, really good opportunity for me to move into kind of more application support focused kind of role. And day one, I landed with 400 support tickets from various places all over the BBC, all over the UK, and just basically everyone hating this portal. That kind of led me to think about really I should always try before I buy. It's something I should have really looked into a little bit more. But the good part about that is that these challenging customers, I had to basically win them over. We had to do a kind of a tour around all of these BBC offices from Glasgow to Birmingham to Southampton, and sit with these people who it wasn't necessarily their day-to-day job to do this IT procurement. And this portal had basically made things a lot worse for them, made their job a lot harder. So I realized back then that I kind of was a pretty good listener, and was able to really listen to requirements of people and kind of help them and sort them out, basically. There's one lady that I'm still in contact with now who initially I definitely wouldn't have been on the Christmas card list because I kind of embodied the bad portal in her eyes, but soon after that, after a couple of years, I was definitely on a Christmas card list, and we still keep in touch now. I then went to Amazon, and I was there for about 7 years. Probably should have probably left after about 4. I was predominantly in the Prime Video team that helped to launch Prime Video globally, and also the transition between LoveFilm and Amazon. Having worked at LoveFilm before and then into Amazon after the acquisition. That's where I kind of got to know SQL and started using that in earnest, because I was basically looking at quality of service metrics. But it's also kind of the place where I felt the most burnout, and really where I think I've always had some form of anxiety, probably for quite a long time, maybe before that, but that was where it first really started to come to the fore. So yeah, this picture, and I know a couple of people on here have seen this before, but this is where I was back then, back in 2017, something like that. I remember going outside, and I was in this is in my back garden at home, and I just thought, I just didn't know really what to do, and where to go and who to talk to. And it was, as you can see, I was in a really pretty bad place. And anxiety for me manifests itself in quite a few ways, but one of the main ways that it manifests itself is what I look like. And my wife says that my face physically changes when I'm having some kind of anxious episode or a panic attack. But I have got to here, and I'm a lot happier. I'm not going to say that my anxiety's gone away. I believe that it's probably going to be there for the majority, if I would have thought, but I've learned to kind of cope with it and get better with it and have a bit of a better relationship with it. But all of that has come through a few different things. Self-awareness is one. I used to see a counsellor. I highly recommend that if you are struggling. It was one of the best things that I ever did, mainly because of the impartiality aspect of it. There's no prejudgment, there's no prejudice. They're there to listen and kind of question things that you might not have realised for yourself. Community is a massive factor as well, both here at home as well as work community, my peer group. The people that I've got to know in this industry. It's thanks to a lot of those people that as to where I am now. And also the Power Platform, it is a major contributor to how I'm feeling. I do really feel like I found my role that I'm probably the most good at that I've been in over the last 22, 23 years. I really enjoy the work. I really enjoy helping people, and that kind of like really helps alleviate some of the anxiety. So I've got like a passion for kind of good mental health. So like I said, I've got this first-hand experience of anxiety. I've also studied counselling to like a HND level. I'm also a mental health first aider, but I'm also sometimes not very good at giving myself advice. So if there's anyone on the call who suffers from anxiety, it's quite easy to, I find it easy to kind of relate to people who do suffer from anxiety. But then when having an anxious period, sometimes I'm not very good at thinking about my own advice and what I could do to kind of get myself out of that. But that's all about having, and it is really important having the people around you for support, whether that's in work, out of work, family, friends, etc. My kind of burnout then and recovery. So I really wasn't enjoying work. I really kind of needed kind of more meaning really to my work life. I'd had my first child, which was amazing, but that also brought up a few things from the past that I kind of was semi-prepared for, but not completely. And then in June 2017, we were on holiday in Portugal, and we sat watching the TV one evening, and an image of Grenfell Tower came on the TV, and I really thought, I have this really empathic kind of nature, and I really kind of felt for the people there, and it was a bit of a turning point for me where I kind of thought, well, the work that I'm doing is I wouldn't say it's not good enough, but it needed more meaning for me. And I realized that things really had to change. Then I got a role at Volker Vessels. It's a construction company. For those of you who know me on the call, you know that I'm no good at DIY, so I wasn't a builder or painter or decorator or anything like that, but I was working in application support. It was a small team, a really good family feel, and it's kind of where I discovered Microsoft 365. I was doing a customer service apprenticeship, and part of that was to get feedback from the work that I was doing, and I used like a Microsoft form, and I saw stuff going into like a spreadsheet, and I thought, there must be something more to this, and I kind of like delved around a little bit. We'd all been given a premium license, unbeknown to us really, and I came across Power Automate and realized what I could do with that, and I started really getting involved in that. And that's also where I started my mental health first aid training. The journey to the Power Platform, I've mainly been in app support roles, like I said, HR and payroll applications. I did that customer service apprenticeship, and then I discovered Power Automate, and I was like, oh, what does this do? And was really involved in it right from the word go, really. I kind of realized that I kind of needed to put in some kind of like hours of like self-study to kind of understand what Power Automate did. YouTube channels, like on John Levesque's YouTube channel, and others, Reza Durrani, I think his name is. Sorry, I maybe got his name wrong. Yeah, and then kind of started to look at Power Apps and Canvas apps, and looking at Shane Young videos and stuff like that. And then I then went to Ignite in 2019. And I I thought I was going to go to all of the kind of technical Power Platform or Power Automate sessions, but I ended up going to all of the Humans of IT sessions, and that's when I kind of realised that there was a lot of power behind, pardon the pun, a lot of power behind that platform, and how it could really change things for good for people. And it wasn't necessarily all about the technology, but it was an enabler for people to make their lives better. So I was thinking kind of what next. At the app support job, I was kind of carving my position into like a Power Automate kind of specialist there, but really there wasn't room there to grow as much as I wanted to. And then COVID came along, and as I've said a couple of times before, obviously COVID for a lot of people was very difficult, and so when I talk about it, I have to be wary of the audience a little bit. But for me, COVID coming then was kind of an unknown opportunity to me that I hadn't really seen coming. I lived in Berkhamsted at the time, and I was on a Facebook group there, and they wanted to kind of onboard lots of volunteers to look after all of the streets in Berkhamsted to help elderly and vulnerable people before anything was set up government-wise. Excuse me. And I reached out to the lady that's. I think I could be able to help you, because there was a lot of people that were interested. We were on this WhatsApp group, and it was like going crazy. So I built a SharePoint list with all of the roads in Berkhamsted, and was able to use Microsoft Forms and Power Automate to basically onboard those people and then assign them to the roads that they were near or on. And we basically, I think there's 375 roads in Berkhamsted, and we onboarded like 270 people in 5 days. And it was like we got like 100% coverage of every street. And yeah, it was very busy in that period, in those 5 days. And then all of a sudden it got very, very quiet, and we were like, why is it so quiet? And that's when I looked at the SharePoint list and realized that all of the streets had been covered. And then it was about a week or so after that, maybe a little bit longer, we had this email from this guy, and he'd basically said how he was like in his 70s, and before COVID, all he was doing was getting up and going to the supermarket, coming back home, shutting his door to the world, and kind of watching a bit of TV and go to bed. And he felt like he was a bit of a hermit. He'd lost his wife about 15 years before that, and it had really been his life really for that last 15 years. And what we, alongside with, part of the Power Platform, enabled to happen was that a lady signed up. She was assigned the road on her, she assigned the road via Power Automate, and she then took it upon herself to go knock on the door of this guy's house, and kind of just have a conversation with him, and sorted him out with a mobile phone, helped him get on the internet, and he sent his first email to us to basically say thank you for helping that all happen. So it was very powerful, that email, and I realized that it was probably 50-75% the technology that had enabled that to happen, and that's when I realized that I was kind of all in on the Power Platform. I then got a message from someone who worked at a Microsoft Gold partner, and they lived in Berkhamsted, and they said to me, "Oh, did you use like Power Automate or something for this?" And I was a bit kind of like taken aback by the question, and I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh, I think you should come and speak to us at Quantic and see if there's a role in the Power Platform team there." And yeah, the rest was history. And I joined Quantic back in 2021. I moved around a little bit since then, but yeah, it was a really, really good starting point. I had some amazing support, some amazing people working there, and some amazing friends have come out of that. So the transition, though, was probably not as easy as I thought it might have been. That first week at Quantic was quite daunting. Not because of Quantic, but because of the transition between me being on the client side for the last 22, 23 years with no real consulting experience. I'd had some of the softer skill stuff, but there was the technical kind of landscape was a lot bigger than just Power Automate and SharePoint. I also had to move from being reactive in the on the client side to being proactive. I had to really change my mindset. I had to really understand and truly listen to clients to understand the requirements and the kind of technical mix that we needed to deliver. Also, another huge aspect to it was that I realized that I was always going to be learning. Even now, always going to be learning. Today, I was working out virtual table connectors with Azure SQL. I think 4 years ago, I never would have thought I would be doing that, but here we are. So yeah, certifications. I'm quite proud to have got quite a few of those. Being a scribe when I first started at Quantic was a really good learning opportunity, trying to understand how consultants work and how consultants deal with, building rapport with clients. And then starting my blog, which it's a love-hate thing with the blogs. Sometimes I get into it and it's really good, and other times I'm like, I need to write more. But what I've realized, especially recently, is that the way I write is more kind of quite formulaic. So I will write something because my memory's not amazing, and it's something that I need to remember. So for example, like one of my posts that's done really well on my blog is about application lifecycle management, and there's like, I don't know, it's like 2,500 views. I think 2,500 views, maybe less. 2 or 3 of those are mine, because I look at it all the time whenever I need it, and it's really easy to be able to use that when we're talking with clients. Another part that I never really knew about before I got into consultancy, but something that I really love is user stories. Really listening to the client, building rapport with them, listening to what they truly want, being tech agnostic, not trying not to solutionize as much as I can, which is very difficult. I still do it now, but really, listening to them and really truly trying to understand what the business value is, and challenging them as well if maybe we've got ourselves into a bit of a rabbit hole there, and then writing good user stories. Bit of a bugbear on that one, but yeah, making sure that they are written correctly, and they're Azure DevOps, all of that stuff, everything in DevOps. So yeah, back to Power Automate for a little bit. Yes, so I definitely have got a love affair with Power Automate, and yes, my wife does know. She calls it the other woman sometimes, which is quite funny. Yeah, I'm pretty much thinking or trying to work out what to do with Power Automate most of the time, whether that's in work or outside of work. I'm a massive visual learner, and that, that's one of the best things about it, like the interface itself. You can also really see results really quickly, which is amazing for me, because part of my anxiety is this immediacy thing where, if someone tells me to do something, I need to do it straight away. So being able to have that kind of response back kind of cause and effect kind of thing immediately is great. I've also been able to teach people and mentor people. So recently I've got involved with, and I think Trisha is on the call, recently got involved with the Power Platform School. Trisha's asked me to be a mentor there for Power Automate and Power Virtual Agents, which is amazing. And I've been able to help at graduate conferences. Also, without my love affair of Power Automate, I probably wouldn't be here speaking to you today, or having the ability to speak to other people in other sessions that I've done recently. And also, it's really helped me grow my confidence in the ability to kind of help others. Yeah, I also realised at Ignite that and with the Humans of IT thing, that it was about kind of giving back to the community and thinking about what your passions were, and trying to kind of work out what I could do with that. And yeah, meeting Samit at Samit Saini at Ignite in 2019 was quite a big changing point for me as well. You know, he was I know some of you probably know Samit, but if you don't, Samit was was a security guard at Heathrow, and he basically told us his story about how he'd stumbled into the Power Platform and basically built this amazing business process and amazing Canvas app that helped security guards doing security checks at Heathrow. And I was kind of inspired to then kind of think about what is it that I was really close to, that that I could maybe build something for and help people. And that's where I kind of thought about my being a mental health champion and mental health first aider. And I built a Canvas app, which, you know, this was quite a while ago when I built this, so it definitely needs a bit of a look and feel rebrand. But yeah, the idea of this mental health check-in app is really to kind of like capture your kind of feelings on that day, to diarize your entries, and then you can kind of embed it in with occupational health or a mental health champion for them to contact you. You can also kind of, because there's data in the background, so there's either a SharePoint version or a Dataverse version, and you can tap Power BI into that, so it also captures your location. So someone who is maybe having a bit of a bad time, if you want to share your details with occupational health, that is, then they can also know where you are posting from. So maybe if there's a crisis situation, you know, that's something that they can help with. So some key takeaways really, kind of find a niche and be good at that. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm 100% there with Power Automate. You know, it's always changing, but you know, I think I'm getting there. Also to kind of find your tribe really. So, you know, if you've got mental health problems, it's okay. Of course it's okay, but it's really important to try and talk about them and reach out to people about it. Also, I've really kind of recently really kind of understood the power of listening and actively listening to people. So that's a key key skill for a consultant in this kind of line of work. And also, yeah, to kind of be passionate. You know, it's okay to be passionate. It doesn't matter what you're passionate about, but it's good to be passionate, because kind of, you know, life's a bit short and it's about making it count. So I've got one more slide before we can kind of like talk about questions and stuff, but I just wanted to, this is something that I've brought up with my colleagues at ANS, and we're going to be rolling it out here, and it's really to ask people, you know, we're really busy on Teams, we're really busy with work, and sometimes I think it would be good just to ask people how they are. And see if things are okay. You never know, it might spark a conversation where you get to know that person a little bit better, or you might spark a conversation, you know, where they might talk about, you know, something that they're worried about or something that they're stressed about. And as you can see here from Neil, yeah, he got involved with that "how are you" question. Yeah, and that is basically me. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it, and feel free to come off mute and ask any questions or anything you would like to do.
Hi, John. Sorry, I just have a question.
Hello, hi.
Hi, yeah, just about, you were saying about anxiety, and
Yeah,
I was reading about, how things keep changing in the Power Platform, and they're constantly changing. You constantly have to be up to date. I read somewhere where someone, I can't remember who it was recommending that you spend like a couple of hours every week, looking at what the updates are in the Power Platform. And someone like me, I've got young children, and I have
yeah,
to kind of figure out a career path that where you can balance that with family life. And I was just
yeah.
thinking about, does that affect your anxiety? The fact that everything keeps, things keep changing and you're constantly having to keep up to date. Or is
Yes,
it is it is it that intense that you have to
that's a
spend?
that's an
Uh,
interesting one because I think I seem to jump from one thing to, like, if someone tells me something's new, I kind of like jump on that, and so it doesn't actually affect my anxiety. Um, but I can see what you mean. I mean, I wrote a blog post which was all about the kind of key people in the community and blogs. So you can have a look at that, and that's like my kind of Bible of where to go to when as and when things change. Also, I think it also depends on how you consume that new stuff. So I'm, like I said before, I'm very much a kind of visual learner, so I'm often on YouTube. Yeah, it is difficult though with the kids here as well, because it is my passion as well. So what I tend to do is I try and see if I can get them involved. So with my eldest daughter, I've done some Canvas app stuff with her to help her with her maths and some of her speech. Um, and so I kind of learned that way as well. I don't know if that answers your question, but
okay,
yeah.
no, that's really interesting. I actually did find something on the internet that was something like Power Apps for Kids or something.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
I might relook at that. Yeah, there was something that
yeah,
someone did. Yeah,
yeah.
so I'm like,
Rory
that's
Neary, I
quite a good
think.
way actually. Yeah, so you're not
Yeah,
shutting them out, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah. Has anyone else got any questions at all? No. Okay.
Oh, hello. I would like to ask
Oh,
a
hello,
question.
hello,
Uh,
hi.
yeah, I missed. I don't know if you mentioned. Is there what is your current working setup? Do you work from home? Do you travel to office? How much time do you really spend alone by yourself at work, or how much so-called human interactions are you getting per day? And how does that affect your mental health?
Um, so yeah, I'm pretty much, I would say I'm 100% remote, really. Um, I've got a kind of home office now that we've moved, which is pretty good, which is nice. Um, Although my old house, I was up in the loft with like these kind of funky steps that people couldn't. Well, I say people, my kids couldn't really get up. So yeah, whereas now they're kind of behind the door every now and again. But yeah, I don't think I could move. I don't think I could go back to like a full-time office job again. ANS's offices are in Manchester, and I am based about 40 minutes south of Milton Keynes. So I would imagine with going up there, that probably happens once every other month, maybe a little bit less than that. Um, yeah, human interaction. Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of the time on Teams, on calls on there. Um, there have been in the past where there have been clients that have been, physically located quite near to where I live, and I've gone to their offices. So that's good as well. But yeah, I think I'm lucky that element doesn't affect my mental health. Yeah, and because really, I am constantly talking to people. As people who know me quite well, I chat quite a bit. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, John.
Hi, Paddy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. That was really interesting. I just wanted to ask, in your current role working as a Power Platform developer, do you see? I know you came from an IT and a development background, but do you see many people on the team that have come from different areas? I just know in my own work, I've just kind of been drawn to the Power Platform stuff, and I'm always trying to integrate it. But it'd be interesting to hear kind of those teams. How is it made up?
So I think there's
here.
as Sarah probably knows, there's quite a shortage around this area, and this was a jump for me from kind of client side IT support, application support into consultancy. But I think with that, I brought a kind of a bit of knowledge around the business side of things and business process. So I think that there is a sweet spot that, if you understand business process, you can see where the challenges are, whether that's with HR or finance or procurement or anything like that. Those are those ideas and those ways of solving those ideas using this technology is kind of in the kind of gold standard area of, I think, of hybrid between business process, business user, subject matter expert, and the Power Platform. And I've never considered myself super technical. I've never been into kind of like programming languages or anything like that. So Power Platform for me was this kind of real sweet spot between business need and technical ability to be able to deliver on requirements to make things better. Yeah. Hi Laura, how you doing?
Hi John, sorry, I'm a little bit distracted by the pose that's been frozen on your screen.
Is it frozen? Is it?
But it might just be for me, which is lovely.
Sorry.
No. My question was, it might just be me, but I get a lot of anxieties about like the future of tech and stuff, and I wondered if you did, and if you had any advice on how to deal with that.
So yeah, I do get that one quite a lot. I think, and it is very hard to deal with that one in my experience. I think the only thing you can do is kind of just deal with now. If you are a consultant and you're on a project, deal with what you can see in front of you, deal with what you're, the stuff that you're delivering on now, rather than thinking about what's going to happen 6 months down the line. I think it's that whole kind of what if and the catastrophizing kind of thing about, I used to call it the what if spiral, because I would be like, well, what if this happens or this happens, and then like your decision making ability goes out the window. So what I would suggest is to try and limit it to what you can see in the next 1 week, 2 weeks, rather than thinking ahead as much as possible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
I wanted to come back to Paddy's point, if that's okay. Obviously, from my point of view, I've worked with a number of consultancies that want the finished product when they're hiring, and there seems to be, I would love to see more of an appetite for juniors, where there's a sort of senior team in place, but it seems like we want the finished person right here, right now, and there's things as a Power Platform school, there's tools, there's lots of forums out there where people are able to go and learn, but getting that first opportunity in a consultancy seems to be tricky at the moment. I don't know about ANS, but certainly with some of the clients that I work with. So it was more of a comment than a question, but throwing that one out there.
Aaron's got his hand up. Hi Aaron, how are you?
Hi John. Yeah, not too bad, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, more of a comment as well, rather than a question really. I was going to touch on the comment around juniors and versus experience. And I think it's really interesting because obviously the way the Power Platform's moving, we've got this no code and low code approach to development. And there's some elements where a client these days will say, well, we've got the technical skills in-house, but actually what we need is kind of that objective confidence and approval of what we're doing and doing it right. And I guess you could kind of look at that two ways, because that gives us lots of room for juniors to grow. They're not expected to know everything all of the time, and they've also got a little bit of wiggle room to do some research as well. But also for the experts out there, that gives them the opportunity to take more of that architectural role as well, which can be quite nice without having to build the stuff that they've been doing for many years now. Yeah, like I say, not really a question, just thought I'd try and contribute.
Thanks, Aaron. Emma's got her hand up. Hi, Emma.
Hi, John. Yeah, I can't keep my mouth shut. You know me really well. To follow on from what Sarah was saying and what Aaron was just saying, I think there are companies out there now looking to do sort of, you know, graduate or analyst programs. They're trying to take people on board. And I think it's been a little bit slow on the Power Platform side. I think you've got a lot of places that will do, you know, let's teach people Dynamics 365, or, you know, let's teach them a specific thing and maybe not the Power Platform. But I actually think it's really interesting for me at the moment. I'm looking at people and saying, well, actually, the technical skill is teachable. I think what some people struggle with is more the consultancy, the step into consultancy, and how that's different from working in-house somewhere. And actually, almost the job for me has become be willing to learn anything and to jump in and to try new things. You know, be willing to go and Google on a daily basis rather than trying to be an expert in something. So in a way, it feels like actually there should be more people out there with those capabilities. They maybe just don't know it.
Yeah, I definitely think that. Yeah.
So,
Thanks,
but yeah,
Emma.
thank you.
Thanks, Emma and Aaron. Anyone else got any questions at all? No. Okay. Well,
I'll ask one, John.
Hello.
It's Gary.
Hello. Hi.
Well, hiya. First of all, what I was just going to say is around the kind of how are you initiative. I just wanted to kind of say, like, thanks for starting that and kicking it off at ANS, because I know that sometimes I'll just have a day where I've had a million calls and I'm like, right, my work day is now starting at 5 o'clock. And you'll often ping me and just go, hey, how are you, out of the blue. And it's like, that is so nice to receive just randomly throughout the day, because you don't always think to ping people and see how they're doing. And when it pops up on your Teams, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, you know what, actually, thanks for asking. I've had a really great day or a really bad day.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was just going to say or ask you is, when you were first starting to work with Power Platform and everything, and you said you did a lot of like self-study outside of work, how much time would you say you were putting in outside of work on like on a regular basis that got you to where you are now?
Yeah, initially when I was still at Volker Vessels, I would say that was quite a lot. It was probably like maybe an hour a night, possibly. I would find myself, but I still kind of do it now. Like, I'm going to come off this, and I'll probably find some Power Automate video, and you know, I'm quite sad like that. So yeah, it was quite a bit, but I think it's kind of finding what kind of works for you. I'm not saying that's the best way of doing it. But yeah, there was that kind of learning curve, and then there was, as Emma's just kind of pointed out, there was the kind of consultancy learning curve as well. But like Emma also said, the technology can be taught. You know, I like today, for example, I never thought I was going to be looking at Azure SQL and virtual tables, and you know, before, like 2 weeks ago, I knew what virtual tables were, but I didn't really know how to set them up or anything. And Google's your friend, and this afternoon I was able to do that. So yeah, does that answer your question, Kerry?
Yeah, it does. Cool, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, sorry.
There's an interesting point on On the consultancy skill set and training on that, there's a lot of people internal that are just the sole Power Platform person within their business. They've found it often through COVID, actually. And they have no idea how good they are. They've got no one to compare themselves to. They've got no peers within the business. And they've got stakeholder management skills, but just not the consultancy side, which is a bit of a non-starter for some organisations. But some really good talent out there that's untapped, I think.
I mean, just a kind of, I suppose, just a show of hands, people on the call. Is anyone on the call that is kind of like that, kind of embedded inside a client with doing kind of like Power Platform on the side? Yeah, interesting. Quite a few people. Yeah, so I'm just going to randomly pick on someone. So, Colin, I saw your hand up. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience?
Oh, sorry, muted. Yeah, I kind of learned it through like a placement thing, and then I'm on the support desk now, so it is kind of part of my job, but not deeply. So when a big problem comes in, I get really deep into the Power Platform, and but I'm not supposed to go that deep, but I just love to get really deep, and it's just good fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that sounds like.
Hopefully, I get as nerdy as you.
that sounds like what I was doing at that construction company, and then I kind of realised I need to kind of find a way of doing it more full time. Yeah. Hi, Victor.
Yes, I think this question is for Sarah. I mean, I've always done this since like 2015, and I've struggled to differentiate being too technical and being a consultant. I just cannot tell the difference on my own side. Maybe you could just expatiate on that.
So you're not sure what the split of your role is, or?
Yeah, I mean, I believe as a developer, I could do anything a consultant can do, unless something I don't know about. I've always written design documents, done Canvas app, good with plugins, good with everything that's got to do with writing code. I can't tell the difference per se.
So from the consultant point of view, you'd be more involved with the kind of requirements gathering, the whole kind of project side, and there would be some development usually. Everywhere's different. It might be one to talk about. We could have a proper conversation about this another time. But yeah, it's more varied, I suppose. It's more end-to-end consultation, as in requirements gathering, follow through, the solution delivery from end to end. But there's usually some hands-on delivery and development in that as well. Does that answer the question?
Sort of, yeah. Pretty much requirements gathering. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else got any more questions? Oh yeah, sorry, Aaron. Hello again.
Hi again. Yeah, I was going to add to that comment that part of the battle when you're building a Power Platform solution is also the people side of things. So when we're estimating, Power Platform development, 40 to 50% of the cost could be the interactions and the engagements with the actual people who are going to be using the software, as opposed to building the software itself. If you were, for example, to develop a Power Platform solution and just deploy it and hope people would use it, then obviously it's not going to have any engagement at all, is it? So the consultancy side really is about making sure you've got the engagement there and the ownership of the product, so that when it does land on their desk and they're able to access it, that people understand why it's there, how it's going to benefit them, and that they continue to use it in the future as well.
So where does a BA fall in then, the business analyst? Because I've always felt that's their role, to actually get the exact picture of what the developers are going to develop.
Business analyst would be there primarily, I would say, in the beginning and the end of a project, making sure that the requirements are fit for purpose, and also they've been defined correctly as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Laura, again.
Sorry. I just wondered, so my question's around like when people are on the bench. I know it happens across the board sometimes at different partner companies, and I've been on the bench, like, and the times that I've spent on the bench, some of it's been quite a long time, and that really affected my mental health. I just wondered if you had any thoughts on what the person who's on the bench can do to help themselves, but also if there's any thoughts about what companies can do to sort of prevent any anxiety, because my anxiety sort of came from, oh God, like, can I even remember how to do my job? And I can research tech all day long, but yeah, like some of the comments previous, it's the consultancy side that can sometimes be a bit more challenging. So yeah, do you have any thoughts on what?
Yeah,
what
so a couple of weeks ago I was in the same kind of predicament for about a week or so, maybe a little bit longer, and we kind of seen people talking about, you know, kind of do as we do, not do as we say. And so I thought, well, there must be some areas inside the business internally in ANS that could do with help on, you know, solving some problems around automation or with Power Platform. So I reached out to like learning and development. I don't know why I always seem to go there first. I had quite a good relationship in most of the companies that I've worked in with the L&D teams. And a guy there kind of came back to me and said, yeah, I've got this idea and this idea. And for about a week, I was working with him, automating things for him, but kind of empowering him. So I wasn't necessarily building everything for him. We were on calls and collaboratively doing it, which then helps me deliver with clients later on down the line, where we're maybe kind of doing these sessions where we're kind of teaching and training them how to use the Power Platform, best practice, that kind of thing. So yeah, if you're quiet, my first port of call is either certifications and learning in general, or looking at internal use cases that potentially need help. Yeah, because I think people internally in a business will always, especially when they're very close to the business process, like this guy was in L&D, they will kind of like be like, wow, okay, I didn't realize it could do this. Yep.
Cool, thank you.
No worries. Thanks for all the questions. Has anyone else got any more questions?
I've just got one last question around the mental health side of things, really. As we've talked, there's been a few comments about juggling, you know, family commitments, work, learning, trying to learn outside of working hours. And from a personal point of view, I've found it took me a little while actually to realise where my balance was, you know, because you need time for yourself as well. You know, it's not, you can't just be a parent and just work. It's what do I want? And I've struggled with that from time to time, and I'll check in intermittently. I might not always recognise when one thing is out of whack, but it seems to knock everything else out if one thing's out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you have a regular kind of check in with yourself? Do you sort of assess that, or is it an ongoing thing for you?
Yeah, so mornings usually, when I've taken the girls to school and I'm in the car coming back, that's kind of the bit where I'm not working, I'm not with the kids, and I can kind of like either plan my day or maybe have, you know, calls with people that I haven't spoken to for a while. There's always kind of either at the beginning of the day or the end of the day. Yeah, and I also make a point of you know, really sticking to my lunch break, which can be tricky, but I do try and get out the house if I can, if the cats aren't driving me mad. Yeah, try and do something to change, to kind of like completely change the physical part of working from home. Yeah, change my environment. Yeah.
You'll find me walking around the co-op around the corner sometimes if I just to get out the house.
Co-op do great croissants if their bakery works. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Anybody else? We're getting close to 5 o'clock now. Anyway, so is there anything to wrap up from you, John?
And I'd just to say thank you very much for like a really engaging session. Thanks for inviting me along, Sarah, and thanks to everyone who was kind of like asking questions and getting involved. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, John. That was really interesting.